Bienvenue à Vancouver. Good day and welcome back to the Flying Doctor channel. Today we'll be back on Air Canada on one of their Dreamliners flying up in the front of the aircraft.
In part 2 of my Air Canada Does It Better video, I burned my mouth twice in the same sitting, experienced my first lav with a view, and experienced a landing I won't forget anytime soon.
So if you enjoyed the last video review looking at their 737 business class product, I think you're going to want to stick around and see what their Dreamliner business is like. So let's go ahead and board the aircraft. There's no time for a lounge review today. I encourage you to sit back, relax, get ready for another flight review.
I was honestly quite disappointed my layover was short because I did want to take a look through the airport in Vancouver. Perhaps more importantly, domestic business class flights with Air Canada give you access to their Maple Leaf Lounge, something I wasn't able to enjoy due to the short connection time. It wasn't long before I was at my gate, so before we board, let's go over today's flight. Charlie Foxtrot Romeo Tango uniform is an 8-year-old 787-9 delivered to Air Canada in June of 2017. We will depart runway 08 right and enter U.S. airspace, flying over Washington, Idaho, Montana, North Dakota, Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Michigan before re-entering Canadian airspace. This particular aircraft arrived this morning after completing a 13-hour flight from Auckland. Today's flight will get us to Toronto in just under 4.
Or at their leisure through the priority boarding lane.
A business class ticket allows you to board in Zone 1.
Have your ID center ready for presentation. If you're holding a passport, kindly open up to the picture page alongside with your boarding card.
Next to the one.
As we step over the threshold onto today's flight, let's take a look at the seat map. Today's aircraft is one of 39 Dreamliners Air Canada operates, only 8 of which are of the 800 series. In the forward section of the aircraft are 30 lie-flat business class seats, 3 rows of premium economy seats are situated in a comfortable 232 layout, and the remainder of the cabin seats 247 additional passengers. My initial impressions as I made my way through the aisle were quite dark, literally. I'm not sure I've ever boarded an aircraft with such lack of lighting. I'm pretty sure some issues with the main cabin electronics were to blame, which will become clearer soon. Either way, I did notice that bedding were set atop each seat. A nice touch for a relatively short flight. Whenever I'm lucky enough to book a ticket such as this, I always try to be one of the first on board to get some uninterrupted footage of the cabin before everyone else settles in. But the lighting had other plans.
Okay, we're on board. Seat number 7 Kilo is a window seat. We have 2 windows available for our viewing pleasure. I already got the camera set up on one of them. Haven't had great success with the Dreamliner windows and getting video, but we'll see how it works today. I'll give you a better seat tour once we get airborne and it gets a little bit lighter in the cabin. It's pretty dimly lit and dark in here, especially with the overcast skies outside. It also seemed like they were a bit short on the turnaround time for this aircraft. There was the comforter, blanket, and pillow on the seat, but the flight attendants have since come through the cabin providing the headsets, water bottles, and menus. Almost certain there is no amenity kit available on a domestic flight in business class, but we'll see if we can maybe talk to the FAs and take a look at what they are like if you are on an international flight. That being said, I'm going to get comfortable a bit here, try and relax, and I look forward to really giving this seat a good look and testing out the flat bed feature.
Flight attendant's boarding is complete. Please secure the cabin.
With boarding complete and having gotten comfortable, I decided to take a gander at the menu because I heard the FA asking fellow passengers what they would like to eat. Let's have a look. Given I only had 2 options to select from, it was a simple process. I suppose I should have also specified a drink to include.
for breakfast?
The omelet.
Omelette?
After putting the menu down, I grabbed my phone and opened up Flight Radar 24 to check the status over at our destination airport to get an idea of whether or not I'd make my connection. While investigating my future air travels, the cabin lighting seemed to be playing mind games with me, turning on and off. Eventually, the cabin electronics were sorted out, temporarily, and the safety video was aired.
Your safety is our top priority. Please take a moment to watch our safety procedures video. The sound headsets connected to a portable device must be removed. Votre sécurité est notre priorité, mais prendre le temps de regarder notre vidéo sur les mesures de sécurité. Les écouteurs branchés et l'appareil doivent maintenant être retirés. Please note that the exit signs on this aircraft are identified by a green symbol. The arrow is indicating the direction of the exit. If you need additional information, please refer to the safety features card.
The sound of these engines spooling up is music to my ears. If you don't enjoy the audio stimulation, feel free to skip ahead a bit. What the Royal Australian Air Force is doing here. We were soon lined up and ready for takeoff. The electronic issues continued as we left the ground. Passengers were reminded on the proper donning procedures for masks supplying oxygen should cabin decompression occur. This would be the last error I noticed while on board.
Okay, we're airborne and it just popped up over the clouds. The sun is breaking through into the cabin. It's much lighter in here. I think it's time we get a proper look at the seat and see what we're dealing with here. The FAs are dimming the windows. What great timing. Let's see if I can change it or if they locked them.
A button to control each window individually is installed beneath the windows, but all windows are networked together, allowing the crew to control the entire cabin or zones using a master switch. A small touchscreen is installed at each seat in business class to control different parts of your seat environment, including the windows.
There's this hand touchscreen panel here on the side, and you can potentially change the lightness inside the cabin. You can use this button to turn on the two lights above your head, as well as a ambience light in the footwell, which is currently being blocked by my backpack. The windows do appear to be getting a bit lighter, which is good for me, bad for the passengers around me who want to sleep.
Above the seat controls is a small storage space where the IFE remote is hiding. A universal power outlet, standard USB plug, and jack for the provided headphones.
What's the point in having this cubby if you can't stow anything?
The tray table slides away from the latched position towards one's self and can be unfolded for more surface area. There's a reading light next to your head, depending on what side of the aircraft you are sitting on. As I was investigating my seat, the FA passed through the aisles, handing out warm towels. After the towels were picked up, I thought I would properly wash my hands before breakfast was served. If you've watched my reviews before, you'll know that I rarely record myself in the labs. I can't pinpoint why, but I feel weird bringing a camera into an airplane bathroom and talking to an inanimate object. However, this time was different, and I'm glad I documented my reaction. History in the making here as I record my first Lou with a View. The lab is supplied with Edition Voyage amenities. The view in the lav has definitely been the highlight of the flight so far. Expectations are high for breakfast based on the service I received on my previous flight. Back at my seat, the table had been extended and a white linen was laid atop. I couldn't help looking at the menu again because, to be honest, I have no idea when the next time I'll have the privilege of holding a physical menu aboard a flight in business class will be.
Is this your only flight today?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's for you.
Thank you.
Would you like some bread?
Sure.
Yeah, brown or white?
Brown.
Brown.
Thank you.
Which level?
Above the appetizer that we were offered on the 7-3 from Edmonton to Vancouver. I thought he mistakenly gave me one of the cold options for breakfast, but he said it was the appetizer, so we'll see. This is quite a substantial appetizer, quite a nice looking fruit plate, as well as this chia seed muesli, something like that. And then it is the same bread roll that was served on the earlier flight. You can check out that review if you haven't seen it already. I'll put a link down in the description.
If you saw my Kenya Airways review, you'll know I basically drooled over their meal service, not because of the food, but the branding and presentation. Air Canada, while slightly more subtle, does a similarly great job adding the attention to detail that so many airlines often overlook. While not as pronounced as KQ's branding, the maple leaf's really all that you need to see to indicate that what you're looking at is probably Canadian.
This stuff is like dessert. Pudding. It's good.
It's like pudding because it is, dummy. Glad your taste buds are functioning. Speaking of taste buds, let's get into some physiology. If you grew up around the time I did or earlier, you were probably told sometime in elementary school that your tongue has certain taste regions: sweet, salty, sour, bitter, and umami. This was likely taught during a science class when students would be asked to test out this theory by placing ingredients falling into each of these 5 categories onto different regions of their tongues. I vividly remember my brain's interpretation of the ingredient placed on my tongue not matching what the teacher or taste map stated. Turns out, my brain was right all along, because the idea that your tongue has specific regions that are sensitive to sugar, salt, or one of the other taste sensations is bullshit. It's much more complex than that. The original taste map was designed based on research performed by a German psychologist, David Hannig, that was published in 1901. Hannig's work identified regions of the tongue that were more sensitive to taste. The periphery of the tongue had a lower threshold for perceiving taste compared to other regions. However, his interpretation and presentation of the findings were somewhat of a misrepresentation of reality. In the 1940s, Edwin Boeing, another psychologist, reimagined Hannig's taste perception into an image that many of us are familiar with. Scientific evidence refuting this overgeneralized theory began surfacing in the 1960s and continued throughout the rest of the 20th century. This outdated, oversimplistic model of taste has become common knowledge and is apparently still taught today. Did I just shatter your brain and make you question the idea? If I did, be a guinea pig and test the theory out. Place a few grains of sugar on the tip of your tongue, rinse your mouth, and then repeat it with salt, coffee, and soda. See what happens. Science lesson done, let's get back to the flight.
Okay, alright, so finished the little appetizer and the seatbelt sign is off, so I was asked about what sort of warm drink I wanted, and I went for the cappuccino. They have 2 flight attendants that are serving the meals, asking customers what they would like, and then they also have a 3rd flight attendant following them and picking up rubbish and empty dishes. It's quite an efficient process. They're keeping busy, definitely. Thank you. Just like that, there's the meal. It looks vaguely similar to what we saw on the 737. Let's go ahead and see if it tastes exactly the same. Probably does, but that's okay because it was quite tasty. I'll make use of the knife this time. It's very hot, temperature-wise, not spicy. That was the first taste, plain egg omelet. And I can confirm, it It is identical to what I had on the flight from Edmonton to Vancouver. Again, no complaints though, because it was pretty tasty. I didn't learn the first time. They keep dimming the windows like I'm not noticing. There's one other passenger up here in the front of the cabin that keeps turning their auto dimmers off, but it's quite frustrating. It's the middle of the day. It's a flight that left at 8 a.m. Are they being so restrictive with the window dimming? Also, I'm remembering back to one of my somewhat recent flights where I made the comment about liking to see my food, see what I'm eating, and questioning why so many elegant restaurants have dimly lit atmospheres. I'm noticing I'm the only one in the cabin with the light turned on to see what I can eat, so I think by this logic, it is pretty clear that I'm the oddball. Honestly, I'd still prefer to be able to see what I'm eating. Well, there you have it. Another excellent meal in a domestic business class product aboard Air Canada. If I could, you know what, I actually might try and do that from now on. If I'm flying coast to coast in the US, I might try and do what I did that one time where I headed to Mexico City and then to Mazatlan before going to San Diego. Maybe next time I'll take a flight up to Toronto and then over to the West Coast with Air Canada, because definitely the value for the price that you pay, if you're gonna spend the extra money in the premium cabins, you get way more flying in Canada.
So I did try to do a design, but it didn't work.
That's fine. It'll taste the same. Thank you.
With the cappuccino freshly prepared, I enjoyed every sip and was ready to get a little more comfortable. Let's test out the flatbed. Like the dimmable windows and lights for your seat, you can control the seat position using two buttons adjacent to the touchscreen above the armrest. I'm really regretting not being a bit more selfish here, but unfortunately the windows were dimmed and I felt too guilty to brighten mine as I noticed some of my seatmates were trying to sleep. A mattress pad and comforter are available, but I just wanted to relax and watch some TV, so I didn't bother unwrapping them.
We are in the lie flat position, and it's alright. My feet are touching the edge. They're crammed into this little cubby, and, well, I guess my head is pretty much at the edge. If you're flying business class and you're above 193 centimeters or so, 6 feet 4 inches, you're probably going to struggle to find a lie flat seat that can accommodate your height. But you know what? It is better than economy on a long haul flight. I'm just going to relax and probably watch some TV, enjoy the fact that I can lay down in a plane. You'll notice that there's a bit of room around my head here. It's pretty private. You can see there's a bit of a privacy wall here. There's also, let's try and get it up, a little guardrail to prevent people from falling out of bed maybe, or to keep you feeling comfortable and cocooned into this little nest here of a lie flat bed. But yeah, I'd imagine this is a decent product on a long haul flight. So until the crew ends up undimming the windows, I'll relax a bit. That meal is pretty good. Anyways, hope you're enjoying the review. If you want to see what the business class product on the Boeing 737 is like with Air Canada, check that out in the description. But I'll catch you in a few hours or so once we get closer to Toronto.
The IFE in the front of the cabin on Air Canada Dreamliners is a large and responsive HD screen. If desired, an always on top display for the flight map keeps you updated on your location. There's a nice catalog of movies, an online shopping section that looks like the inventory of a Radio Shack on the very last day of business, The menu for the previous flight, which I did find interesting, it's a standard IFE you'll find on many world-class airlines, so I'm gonna leave it there.
We got about 600 miles or so remaining. Watched a few shows, and there's a little basket full of some snacks available at the forward end of the cabin. And right after I sat back down, the flight attendants were walking around handing out warm nuts, which, if you've watched my American Airlines business class review on a domestic flight, you'll know that I enjoy quite a bit. You're not going to believe this. So I asked if I could take a look at one of the amenity kits, knowing that Air Canada does not hand them out on normal domestic flights, whether you're in business or not. Not only was the flight attendant able to find one for me, he also found a pair of slippers, and he got me a nice little card. So check that out. We're not on the 777, but maybe one day we'll get on there. We'll definitely be back with Air Canada. Thank you guys for your warm hospitality. It's definitely been a pleasure. Won't be a trip I forget anytime soon. I can't wait to try an even longer flight. Maybe we'll go Vancouver to Sydney or Brisbane one day. We'll see how it goes, but thanks again. You guys are doing a great job, fantastic job in the cabin. Really enjoying my time.
Well, we do have some reports of a bumpy ride in the descent to the Toronto, so we're going to put the seatbelt sign on just a little bit earlier than usual, and we'll have the cabin crew prepare the cabin for arrival a little bit sooner than we normally achieve it. So we do ask that you return your seats, keep your seatbelts fastened for the remainder of the flight, and we do expect a bit of a bumpy ride, mainly below about 20,000 feet, which is in about 15 minutes from now. Latest weather in Toronto is showing snowy, gusty surface winds at a temperature of -7. Thank you.
I've lived in snowy places, driven through heavy snow, driven when I probably shouldn't have through blizzard conditions, but I've never flown or landed in near whiteout conditions. This landing definitely had my gaze fixated out the window. The ground beneath us slowly became visible, distinguished only by barren trees and faint tire marks on roadways. It was clear that most Torontonians were staying safe indoors and avoiding these unwelcoming conditions. As one might expect, there were delays at Toronto, and to be honest, I think I was pretty lucky getting on one of the flights that remained uncancelled today, as the arrivals boards consisted of a lot of red cancelled flights. The ground crew had their hands full today, and we had to wait a bit on the taxiway. I took the time to stare out the window as the various aircraft disappeared into the snowscape.
Welcome to snowy Toronto. We're just waiting for our gate right now. Please remain seated with your seatbelts fastened. Thank you for your attention.
The big question on your mind is probably how much did this cost? Like many of my aviation adventures, I avoid direct flights. Strange, I know. I usually try to book as many connecting flights as possible on a single ticket. This often gives me a chance to fly on multiple aircraft operated by the same carrier, or sometimes on alternative carriers that are code-shared with the primary airline. I booked today's flight as part of my trip from Edmonton. The price of both flights was $689, meaning the cost per mile of this trip in business class was 27 cents per mile. Not the best deal, but I've paid much more for economy flights in the States.
Well, that was an eventful landing. I'm very surprised at the fact that they continued with that approach, and the ground crew here is doing an amazing job keeping the runways active. And seeing some of those planes depart as we sat on the taxiway waiting for our gate to be available, it's quite impressive to see those birds just glide up into the abyss of snow. But anyways, again, Air Canada exceeded expectations with the domestic business class product, and I'm really looking forward to trying them out on an international route in the future. If I end up flying across to Europe or to Asia from Atlanta, I'll probably try and use Air Canada for a long-haul international flight. But until we get that booked, I'll let you keep checking out some of my other reviews, and if you're interested, you can follow me on Instagram, and also don't forget to subscribe. Every little bit counts in making the channel continue to grow and be able to add more flight reviews. As always, thanks for watching. See ya.